My name is Mark. I'm 54 years old. And for nearly 10 years I lived in a quiet suburb outside Seattle in a house that looked stable from the street. Trim lawn, neutral siding, two-car garage. Wind chimes by the porch that Linda said made it feel welcoming. It wasn't welcoming. It was structured, maintained, financed. By me. The house had been hers after her divorce from Richard. That detail was always spoken gently, as if it were sacred history. It's important for Cody to feel secure, she told me when we first got married. I agreed. Of course I agreed. I wanted to be the man who added stability, not the one who threatened it. So I moved in carefully, politely, like a long-term guest who didn't want to rearrange the furniture too much. But the bills rearranged themselves toward me almost immediately. The mortgage payment came up short the second month we were married. Linda's freelance work had slowed. She looked embarrassed when she told me. I remember standing in the kitchen, sunlight hitting the granite countertops I would later pay to replace, and saying, "Don't worry, I've got it." That became a pattern. Property taxes? I've got it. Water heater fails? I've got it. New roof after that brutal winter storm? I've got it. I stopped noticing the transfer dates. The money just flowed. Quiet. Efficient. Expected. I told myself it was what husbands did. Provide. Protect. Stabilize. But slowly, almost invisibly, I stopped being a husband and became infrastructure. Cody was 14 when I entered his life full-time. Old enough to remember his father clearly. Old enough to resent a replacement. Too young to understand nuance. Richard lived in Florida, in a condo near the beach that existed mostly in stories. He showed up once a year, sometimes twice if the timing was dramatic enough, bringing loud laughter and expensive sneakers. He'd slap Cody on the back and say things like, "My boy's gonna run the world one day." Then he would leave. No child support checks cleared regularly. No late-night homework help. No dentist appointments. No early alarms for school drives. But none of that seemed to matter, because absence is easy to romanticize. Presence is harder. I tried not to compete. That was my first mistake. I thought dignity would win. I thought consistency would speak louder than charm. I attended every parent-teacher conference. I sat in plastic chairs in fluorescent-lit classrooms listening to feedback about Cody's potential. "He's bright," they'd say, "but distracted." I'd nod. I'd ask what we could do. I'd follow through. When he wanted to try lacrosse, I bought the equipment. When he quit 3 months later, I didn't complain about the wasted money. When he needed tutoring in math, I paid for it. Quietly, promptly, I told myself, this is how bonds are built. Brick by brick. But Cody didn't see bricks. He saw transactions. He called me Mark for years. Never Dad. I didn't push it. I thought forcing a title would cheapen it. I believed if I earned it long enough, one day it would come naturally. Didn't. At dinner, I noticed something early on. Conversations flowed between Linda and Cody like a closed circuit. Shared references from years before I arrived. Inside jokes about Richard's old habits. Stories that ended in laughter I couldn't access. I would smile, listen, wait for an opening. Sometimes there wasn't one. And when I tried to insert myself, gently, respectfully, the energy shifted. Not hostile, just corrected, like I had stepped slightly offbeat in a rhythm that wasn't mine. "Mark's just worried," Linda would say if I raised a practical concern. Just worried. That phrase became shorthand for, he means well, but this isn't really his lane. When Cody turned 16, I bought him his first car. Used but reliable. I spent weeks researching safety ratings and maintenance records. The day I handed him the keys, he smiled, really smiled, for the first time in years in my direction. "Thanks, Mark," he said. Mark. I told myself the name didn't matter. The gratitude did. I paid for the insurance. Covered the gas for the first few months. When he got a minor speeding ticket, I handled it. Sat with him at the kitchen table explaining consequences. Not yelling. Teaching. Richard sent a text that night. "He'll be fine. Boys will be boys." I paid the fine. College came faster than I expected. Acceptance letter. Celebration dinner. Linda cried. Cody hugged her tightly. Richard called on speakerphone and promised to visit campus soon. He never did. The tuition invoice arrived a month later. The number was high enough to sting. I stared at it longer than I should have. Linda said, "We'll figure it out." We didn't figure it out. I paid it. Semester after semester, the transfers left my account like clockwork. Tuition, housing, meal plan, then extras, textbooks, a laptop upgrade, a study abroad program that would look incredible on a resume. I said yes more than I said no. When Cody called saying his credit card was maxed out because of unexpected expenses, I covered it. When one of his startup ideas needed seed money for a prototype, I invested. Not because the pitch made sense, because I wanted him to feel supported. Richard sent motivational messages. Proud of the hustle, champ. I funded the hustle. Over time, something inside me began to calcify. Not anger, not yet. Awareness. I noticed that when Cody spoke about his future, he never mentioned me. When he talked about family, he meant Linda and Richard. I was a background utility, like Wi-Fi, essential, unnoticed until disconnected. One evening, after I'd finished installing new cabinets in the kitchen, cabinets I paid for and physically mounted, I overheard Cody on the phone. "Yeah, my mom's husband handled it," he said casually. Mom's husband. I stood there with a drill in my hand, dust still on my jeans. That was the first real crack. I tried to talk to Linda that night. "I feel like I'm financing a life I'm not part of," I told her. She sighed. "Tired. Mark, you're overthinking it. He's young. He'll grow out of it." That phrase again. He'll grow out of it. But he didn't grow out of it. He grew into it. The older he got, the more confident the distance became. He stopped pretending to value my input. Decisions about internships, travel, even repairs in the house were discussed between him and Linda first. I was informed afterward. Still, the bills came to me. Linda called me reliable, dependable, solid. Those words sound good at dinner parties. They feel hollow when you're lying awake at 2 a.m., wondering if you're respected or just required. I began to realize something that unsettled me deeply. They weren't afraid of losing me. They were afraid of losing what I provided. And provision without respect is not love. It's leverage. The cracks weren't loud. They didn't shatter windows or slam doors. They were subtle shifts. Glances exchanged over my shoulder. Decisions made in rooms I wasn't invited into. Gratitude that expired the moment the payment cleared. I kept telling myself, stay steady, stay calm, don't be petty. But inside, something was eroding. Not my bank account, my dignity. And I didn't yet understand how close we were to the moment when the quiet erosion would turn into something irreversible. Thanksgiving was always my holiday. Not because I loved the food. Not because I enjoyed the small talk or the forced gratitude passed around the table like a ritual no one believed in. It was my holiday because I built it. Every year. I woke before sunrise that morning. The house was quiet. The sky outside still bruised with dawn. I stood alone in the kitchen I had remodeled. Cabinets I installed, countertops I paid for, appliances chosen after hours of research, and I began preparing the meal. Turkey brined overnight. Stuffing from scratch. Mashed potatoes whipped until smooth. I moved through the kitchen with mechanical focus. Knife against cutting board. Oven timer humming. Coffee growing cold beside me. I told myself this year would be different. Cody had been distant lately, more dismissive than usual. But I convinced myself it was stress. Post-college uncertainty. Pride. Young men often mistake arrogance for independence. Linda drifted into the kitchen around 9, robe tied loosely, scrolling through her phone. "Smells good," she said. That was it. No offer to help. No acknowledgement that I had been awake for hours. Just an observation like she was reviewing a restaurant. Relatives started arriving before noon. Cousins. An aunt I barely knew. 2 family friends who always brought the same bottle of wine and the same stories. The house filled with noise quickly. Laughter, overlapping conversations, footsteps echoing off the hardwood floors. I refinished myself. Cody arrived last. He walked in with that casual swagger he had perfected in his 20s. Phone in hand. Smile reserved for everyone but me. "Hey, Mom," he said, hugging Linda tightly. Richard wasn't there. He never was for Thanksgiving. But somehow his absence hovered anyway. Cody mentioned him twice within the first hour. Dad said he might visit in December. Dad thinks I should move to Miami. Dad. Always Dad. I set the table meticulously. Plates aligned. Silverware polished. Glasses evenly spaced. I moved around the dining room like staff in a house that bore my name nowhere. Dinner began with the usual ritual. Everyone seated. The turkey carved by me. Compliments offered vaguely. "This is great. Delicious." Mark really outdid himself. They said my name like a footnote. Halfway through the meal, the conversation shifted to real estate. One of the cousins asked about property values in the area. Linda answered confidently. "The market's been strong. I'm lucky I held on to this place after the divorce." I paused mid-bite. Held on to. I swallowed. "Yes," I said evenly. "We've invested quite a bit into it over the years." Cody smirked. "A small thing, but deliberate." "Invested?" he repeated under his breath, like it was funny. The conversation continued without me. Then it happened. It wasn't explosive at first. It was physical, subtle. Cody stood up to grab another drink and brushed past me harder than necessary. His shoulder hit mine with enough force to jolt my chair. I looked up. "What are you doing?" he muttered. "I'm sitting," I replied calmly. He didn't sit back down. He stood there, towering slightly, voice louder now. "What are you even doing here?" The room quieted incrementally. Forks paused midair. I thought I misheard him. "I live here," I said. He laughed. Short, sharp. "Do you?" Silence spread across the table like spilled wine. "Cody," Linda warned lightly, but there was no edge to it, no authority. He didn't look at her. He looked at me. "You're not family," he said. "You're just here." Each word landed clean, controlled. I felt heat rising in my chest, but my voice stayed level. "I've been here for 10 years. "Yeah," he shot back. "Paying bills doesn't make you anything." That was the moment the air left the room. Someone coughed awkwardly. A chair creaked. I looked at Linda. She was staring at her plate. "Say something," I said quietly. She exhaled, annoyed more than concerned. "Mark, don't turn this into a scene." A scene. I hadn't raised my voice. Cody's eyes hardened. And then he finished it. "You're just a wallet here." There it was. Not said in anger. Not shouted. Stated. Like a fact. A few people at the table shifted uncomfortably. No one defended me. No one corrected him. I felt something inside me go still. Not shattered. Still. I set my fork down carefully. "If that's true," I said evenly, "then the wallet is closed." The words didn't echo. They didn't need to. Cody froze. The smirk vanished. Linda looked up sharply. "Don't be dramatic," she said quickly. "I'm not," I replied. "I'm listening." I stood. Calm. Controlled. No yelling. No slammed doors. Just silence. I excused myself from the table and walked upstairs. The conversations downstairs didn't resume immediately. I heard whispers. Tension. Forced laughter attempting recovery. In my office, I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. Joint checking account. Closed. Automatic tuition transfers. Cancelled. Cody's credit card, the one linked to my account. Frozen. Insurance policy payments. Scheduled cancellation. Each click was deliberate. Methodical. No anger guiding my hand. Just clarity. 10 years of clarity compressed into 20 minutes. When I came back downstairs, dessert was being served awkwardly. The mood brittle. Linda looked at me like I had embarrassed her. "You didn't have to say that," she hissed under her breath. "I didn't have to hear what he said either," I replied. Cody avoided eye contact now, but there was something new in his expression. Uncertainty. Good. I didn't argue further. I didn't make a speech. I didn't defend myself to the guests. I simply stopped. That week, the reality began to unfold. Bills arrived. And the money didn't. For the first time in years, the house felt different. Not unstable yet, but exposed. I didn't announce what I had done. I didn't threaten. I didn't send a group message. I didn't slam doors or pack bags. I simply removed myself from the machinery. For years, I had been the quiet engine behind everything. Mortgage auto-paid. Utilities scheduled. Tuition transferred before deadlines. Credit balances cleared before interest could bloom into consequences. The system functioned because I functioned. Now it would function without me. Or not at all. The first sign came 5 days after Thanksgiving. A white envelope sat on the kitchen counter when I walked in from work. University letterhead. Linda was holding it like it might explode. "Mark," she said carefully. "Cody's tuition payment didn't go through." I set my keys down, took off my coat, washed my hands. "There's no mistake," I said. Her eyes narrowed. "You actually did it." "Yes." She stared at me as if she were waiting for the punchline. "Mark, this is childish." "No," I said calmly. "What's childish is telling a man he's nothing and expecting him to keep paying." She inhaled sharply but didn't argue further. "Not yet." Cody came home that evening with agitation radiating off him. He didn't greet me, didn't pretend. "What did you do?" he demanded, holding his phone up like evidence. "I listened," I replied. "They're saying my account is past due. Classes start in 3 weeks." "I'm aware." His jaw tightened. "Fix it. Fix it." Like I was a malfunctioning appliance. "I'm not responsible for it," I said evenly. "You made that clear." His voice rose. "Are you serious right now? You're going to sabotage my future because of one comment?" One comment. 10 years compressed into one comment. "I'm not sabotaging anything," I said. "I'm stepping back from a role you said I don't have." Linda stepped between us. "Enough. Both of you." But she didn't defend me. She never did. That night, I heard Cody pacing upstairs. Phone calls. Frustrated sighs. A door slammed. The next blow came 2 days later. His car wasn't in the driveway when I came home. I didn't ask. I already knew. Repossession notices don't wait. He stormed into the house an hour later, face pale with disbelief. "They took it," he said, as if announcing a crime. "Insurance lapsed," I replied. "Payments stopped." "You did this." "Yes." His anger shifted into something rawer. Fear. "How am I supposed to get to campus? To interviews?" "That's something you'll have to figure out." He stared at me like I was someone he'd never met. For the first time, he looked small. Linda tried to manage the damage quietly. She called her sister. I overheard the conversation. "Just until we stabilize," she whispered. "Stabilize." As if stability had always been some shared effort. She sold a few pieces of jewelry the following week. I noticed the empty space in her dresser drawer. She thought I didn't see. She called Richard too. I heard that conversation as well. "You need to help," she said sharply into the phone. "This is your son." A long pause, then softer. "What do you mean you'll figure something out?" "When?" He never figured anything out. Cody waited for a wire transfer that never came. Another letter arrived from the university. Final notice before suspension. This time, Linda placed it in front of me without speaking. I didn't touch it. "Say something," she finally whispered. "What would you like me to say?" "That you'll fix it." "I won't." Her composure cracked then. "You're punishing him." "I'm allowing reality." Her voice trembled. "He's your family." I met her eyes. "Am I?" She didn't answer. Because she couldn't. The house changed tone quickly after that. No more casual confidence. No more relaxed entitlement. The kitchen table filled with unpaid statements. Credit card balances. Past due reminders. Cody stopped speaking to me altogether. Not out of pride. Out of calculation. He knew yelling wouldn't work. So he tried silence. But silence doesn't refill bank accounts. A week later, I came home to find him sitting alone in the living room. No phone in hand. No music. Just staring at the wall. "They're suspending me," he said flatly. I nodded. "Dad said he can't help," he added. There it was. Not anger now. Not arrogance. Exposure. For the first time, the mythology of Richard collapsed in real time. "He said he's going through some things," Cody continued, almost to himself. "Told me to be patient." Patient. I almost laughed. "I've been patient for 10 years," I said quietly. He looked at me then. Really looked at me. Something was different in his eyes. Not irritation. Not superiority. Recognition. Fear, yes. But something else too. Understanding. "You're really not going to fix this," he said. "No." Linda entered the room midway through that exchange. She looked exhausted. Older somehow. "This isn't sustainable," she murmured. "For the first time," I replied. "I agree." The mortgage payment deadline approached. I didn't transfer the funds. Linda noticed immediately. "You wouldn't," she said, voice thin. "I would. This is my house. And I've financed it for a decade." Her face flushed. "So what, you're just walking away?" "I'm stepping away from being used." The word hung heavy between us. Used. She opened her mouth to argue, then stopped. Because deep down, she knew. The following days were a study in unraveling. Cody scrambled for part-time work. Applications submitted everywhere. No immediate responses. Without the car, transportation became another problem. He borrowed Linda's vehicle twice. I said nothing. Linda's tone toward me shifted from anger to something closer to desperation. "You're making a point," she said one night. "But at what cost?" "At the cost of my dignity," I answered. "Which I've already paid." The house felt smaller now. Tighter. Like the walls themselves were aware that the structure had been built on one man's willingness to absorb everything. I wasn't loud. I wasn't cruel. I was finished. And for the first time since I moved into that house, they understood something fundamental. The stability of their lives had not been magic. It had been me, and I was no longer participating. The house didn't collapse all at once. It sagged. Quietly. Mortgage notices turned from polite reminders into final warnings. Late fees stacked like silent accusations. The refrigerator, once full without thought, began to thin. Linda started comparing prices at the grocery store. I watched her stand longer in aisles, calculator open on her phone. Cody stopped pretending this was temporary. Reality had weight now, pressed on him, bent his posture, hollowed out his tone. One evening, about 3 weeks after Thanksgiving, he came into the kitchen while I was washing a single plate. I had begun eating separately, not out of spite, out of distance. "I got suspended," he said. Not dramatic, not explosive, flat. I didn't turn immediately. I finished rinsing the plate, set it in the rack, dried my hands. "I'm sorry to hear that," I said. He swallowed. "They said I can re-enroll next semester if the balance is cleared." I nodded. Silence stretched between us. Thick, heavy. "I tried calling Dad again," he added. "I didn't ask what happened." His face answered it. "He said he's in a tight spot. Promised he'd see what he can do." The same script. The same ghost. For the first time in 10 years, Cody wasn't defending him. He was seeing him. Linda wasn't holding up as well. The strain showed in small fractures. Sleepless nights. Short responses. The way she would sit at the dining table staring at bills like they might rearrange themselves if she waited long enough. One night she said it out loud. "I didn't think you would actually do it." "Do what?" I asked. "Withdraw." I leaned back in my chair. "I didn't withdraw. I stopped pretending." Her eyes filled, but she didn't cry. Not fully. She wasn't mourning money. She was mourning certainty. "You could fix this," she whispered. "All of it. Right now." "Yes." "Then why won't you?" "Because fixing it would erase the truth. Because fixing it would teach Cody that disrespect has no cost. Because fixing it would confirm that I am nothing more than an emergency fund with a pulse." But I didn't say all that. Instead, I asked her something simpler. Would you have defended me at that table? She looked down. There it was. That silence again. The same silence that had followed Cody's words. You're just a wallet here. Weeks passed. The bank scheduled a meeting about the mortgage delinquency. Linda attended alone. She came home quieter than usual. They'll give us 60 days, she said. The word felt strange now. Cody found part-time work at a warehouse. Night shifts. Minimum wage. He came home exhausted. For the first time, I saw him calculating gas money before leaving the driveway. Consequences are a brutal teacher, but they are honest. One afternoon, as winter pressed against the windows, Cody knocked on my office door. Knocked. He stood there awkwardly, hands in his pockets. I was wrong, he said. 3 words. Simple. Direct. I studied his face. There was no sarcasm, no defiance, just humility forced by reality. I shouldn't have said what I said, he continued. It wasn't true. I held his gaze. Wasn't it? I asked quietly. He hesitated. I didn't mean it like that. How did you mean it? He didn't have an answer, because the truth is, he had meant it exactly how it sounded. He just hadn't expected it to cost him. I took you for granted, he said finally. That was closer. Linda stood in the hallway listening. I could feel her presence like static. I walked past Cody into the living room and sat down. You built your life assuming I would always absorb the impact, I said. Every bill, every mistake, every shortfall. You never once asked what that cost me. He lowered his eyes. And when you reduced me to a wallet, I continued. You revealed what I had allowed myself to become. He swallowed hard. I'm sorry, he repeated. Apologies are powerful, but they don't erase patterns. Linda stepped forward then. Mark, we understand now. Do you? I wasn't sure they did. I wasn't sure understanding born from panic is the same as understanding born from respect. I'm not coming back, I said calmly. Both of them froze. What do you mean? Linda asked. I mean, I'm not resuming payments. I'm not reinstating accounts. I'm not returning to that role. Cody's voice cracked. So that's it. That's it. I had already signed the lease on a small apartment in a Montana town 2 weeks earlier. Quiet. Modest. Mine. I had accepted a position at a local auto shop. Honest work. Simple. Tangible. No joint accounts. No blurred lines. No silent humiliations. The final week in that house was strangely peaceful. Not because there was reconciliation. Because there was clarity. Boxes were packed. Mine only. On my last night there, Linda stood in the doorway of what had once been our bedroom. You're really leaving, she said. Yes. This isn't revenge? No. Then what is it? Self-respect. But again, I chose simpler words. It's the consequence. Cody didn't say much when I loaded my truck. He stood on the driveway, hands shoved into his jacket. Will you ever help again? He asked. I looked at him carefully. Help isn't the same as carry, I said. If you want a relationship with me, it won't be built on transactions. He nodded slowly. For the first time, he looked like a man who understood weight. A month after I moved, Linda texted me. You win. I stared at the message for a long time. This was never about winning. It was about refusing to lose myself completely. I didn't humiliate them. I didn't destroy them. I removed the illusion that stability was automatic. Sometimes the only way to save yourself is to quietly leave the table. So tell me, was I wrong to close the wallet when they made it clear that was all I was? Or would you have endured it, smiling, paying, and pretending, until there was nothing left of you at all?